So thanks for joining us today and throughout this series. It's now my pleasure to introduce my friend Radha Curpen. Radha is the managing partner at Bennett Jones here in Vancouver and our lead partner in delivering this series. Radha, as you know, is going to lead us through a discussion with Jill Schnarr, the Chief Communications Officer with Telus, where Jill leads the corporate citizenship and communications teams. Jill brings social purpose to life at Telus, driving social change and leveraging the company's core offering, technology, to enable meaningful human outcomes in communities across Canada and around the world. Jill leads important TELUS initiatives and campaigns, including Connecting for Good programs, We Give Where We Live, the launch of the TELUS Friendly Future Foundation, and the TELUS Pollinator Fund, which we're going to hear more about. These enable collectively to power the next generation of ideas and startups that are building tech for good. So thanks, Radha and Jill, for your support in this ESG series today and going forward, and I really look forward to the discussion. Over to you, Radha.
Thank you. Thank you, Greg. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Welcome on behalf of Bennett Jones and the BCBC to the fifth and final session of ESG in BC. I am joining you from Vancouver on the traditional territory of the Coast Salish peoples, the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. I want to start by thanking Greg and Cheryl and the rest of the Business Council of BC for the incredible job they have done in developing this series. And thank you so much to all our speakers who over the past 5 months have shared their insights, experiences, vision, and inspiration on building a sustainable economy in our province. Our first seminar was held in May, and some of the highlights include hearing from experts on how to effectively embed ESG principles across organizations, how BC's wealth of natural resources can contribute to reduction in global emissions, how the role of Indigenous peoples as partners, regulators, proponents is imperative to advancing reconciliation, self-determination, and creating meaningful economic opportunities, all while driving ESG principles forward. Today, we are joined by another outstanding speaker as we talk with Jill Schnarr, Chief Communications Officer from Telus. Jill and I will discuss in a few moments Telus's leadership for good in ESG, sustainability, and social innovation, what's next for BC's largest private sector firm, and how they will continue to contribute to ESG in the province. So the journey of this ESG in BC webinar series began last year when Greg and I were talking about the need to look deeper into what we could do now to take advantage of the immense opportunity ESG presents for our province and our country. ESG is fundamentally shifting how businesses, Indigenous nations, investors, lenders, customers, and consumers make decisions, and how governments make policies and laws. We need to work together, not only to take up, but to also build the opportunity of this accelerated focus on the importance of ESG. This will help to re-energize our economy, especially after this pandemic, and fulfill the promise this province has to build shared prosperity. So we want people to continue these discussions in the boardrooms and living rooms of British Columbia. So as we wrap up this series and continuing to look far ahead, some words of Winston Churchill come to mind. And I quote, "This is not the end. It is not even the beginning of the end, but it is perhaps the end of the beginning," close quote. So on the path forward for ESG, the Business Council of BC, Bennett Jones, and all of our partners will continue our work to keep creating connectivity for organizations and governments. This means a connectivity of issues that was not obvious before and that people may not have seen before. So creating connectivity will be an important part of elevating BC's brand and making it known as a destination for and a leader in ESG. So many areas of ESG have been part of the business fabric in British Columbia for decades. We have been leading in areas like working with Indigenous communities as rights holders, the evolving green energy transition, technology, and partnerships. And one of our companies, Telus, has set the standard when it comes to embedding ESG into its governance and corporate culture, and by defining who it is through its social purpose. The company is a true Canadian leader, and we're thrilled to have Jill here to tell us all about its ESG vision and success. And as Greg mentioned, Jill leads the corporate citizenship and communication team at Telus and has significantly influenced, built upon, safeguarded the company's reputation as a global leader, enabling Telus to be one of the most trusted brands in Canada. So she has a natural ability to build integrated multi-platform strategies that pair bold marketing with creative storytelling to convey narratives to varying audiences in unique and memorable ways. So let's begin. This only begins to describe her leadership at Telus and in ESG. So with that, we'll begin our conversation. Thank you for joining us, Jill. Let me start the discussion today, Jill, by talking about how Telus has been practicing corporate social responsibility for decades. I remember talking about Telus in my when I was teaching corporate social responsibility at the law school in Toronto. And it was well before CSR or ESG even entered the corporate lexicon. From your perspective, why did Telus start down this path, and how has this work evolved?
Well, our commitment to social purpose began actually more than 2 decades ago, and it was driven by our new CEO at the time, Darren Entwistle, who really understood that to do well in business, we must do good in the communities where we live, work, and serve. And I think our journey started with an early focus on corporate philanthropy, right, and employee giving. And we were giving to major charities such as children's hospitals, and we were engaging with employees to give back. And that's when we started our Telus Days of Giving and our employee charitable giving programs, where we match donations to charity, or we would reward employees for volunteering at charity. And that was really important because it really engaged employees in giving and with the business. Mm-hmm. And then I would say we evolved to more strategic philanthropy when we decided to launch community boards. And what we did there is we wanted to give grants to local grassroots charities that normally wouldn't get grants because they seem to be going to some of the, the bigger charities. And we decided to ask local business leaders and community leaders to sit on these boards with us in their local communities and help us make decisions about where the grants should go. And that was great for us because it enabled us to create really deep relationships with community and business leaders, which helped with our giving, but then also helped with our business. And then from there, I'd say we evolved to corporate social responsibility. So we took a broader approach, right, across diversity and inclusion, across environmental leadership, taking care of employees, health and well-being, sustainability. And just as much as we were focusing on our local communities, we focused on those areas and really built up, I think, our bench strength in corporate social responsibility. But I think it was still separate from regular business operations. Right. And then I think it's now really evolved to today's ESG, or at Telus, what we call social capitalism, where our purpose as a for-profit company is to work to address social issues as part of our core business, because we want to drive improved social and environmental outcomes. And I would say ESG now is embedded in every aspect of our business operations. It wasn't easy, by the way, but we've got there. It's a part of our strategic priorities, our values, our culture, our brand promise. It guides our strategy. It's a blueprint for how we engage and interact with our customers and our communities and our shareholders. And I would say it drives all areas of our business, from where we invest capital to where we focus our research and development, to new products and services, to how we treat our customers.
Mm-hmm. It is exactly what we say when we talk about ESG, when we talk to other companies and other organizations, is to have the thread throughout everything you do. So thank you for that. Most of the audience will be familiar with Telus's position as a leader in corporate citizenship. And you mentioned your employee-driven Telus Days of Giving activities. Could you provide us with an overview of what your current ESG sustainability corporate citizenship priorities and key initiatives are today?
Yes. All right. So first, as an organization, we've actually defined our social purpose. And it is to leverage our world-leading technology and connectivity and compassion to drive positive social change and enable remarkable human outcomes. Under that social purpose are 5 key pillars that we focus on. So the first is empowering Canadians with world-leading connectivity. That's the foundation of our business, right? We've started off as a telco. We've now, diversified into many industries, but it's all about how do we ensure that everyone has access to our incredible connectivity, because technology and connectivity is the greatest equalizer, right? It enables us all to reach our full potential as long as we have access. Rural, urban access, no matter your socioeconomic status, we want to make sure that you have access to this connectivity. So that's number 1. Number 2, we've also decided in 2008 to innovate in healthcare. One of the greatest social issues, I think, facing us as Canadians was that we, had a really antiquated healthcare system. And we saw an opportunity to digitize that healthcare system and create something so much better that enabled, way better health outcomes for all Canadians. So we invested a lot in that, $4 billion actually over the last decade, and we've built it up to be, for Telus to be the largest healthcare IT provider in Canada, which is amazing. And then the third priority is caring for the environment. And we really are an incredible sustainability leader. We have been recognized as one of the top 100 greenest employers. We have basically set a goal to be 100% net carbon neutral by 2030. We've invested in wind farms and solar farms so that we reduce our dependence on carbon emissions to help power our networks and our company. So that we can, look to alternative energies. We were the only telecommunications company recognized on the Wall Street Journal's most sustainably managed companies in the world. We've been ranked on the Dow Jones Sustainability Index as one of the leading global corporations. So, we're really doing a lot in the environmental space. And then our fourth priority is ensuring social equity and inclusion. This is where we are, trying to ensure that no matter your socioeconomic status, you get access to the programs, the education, the connectivity that you need. And we're doing a lot in this space. One of the things I'm most excited about is our Pollinator Fund, which is a $100 million fund where we invest in new businesses and we help scale them and grow. And, we've really focused on businesses that are Indigenous owned, BIPOC owned. We've helped new immigrants through windmill micro lending to get their credentials while here in Canada. So we do a lot in that space as well. And then the fifth priority as part of our social purpose is giving back to communities because we've built such an incredible presence there. It's such a great way to engage our team, our customers. Telus this past year will give 5% of our pre-tax profits to local charities. 5%. Most companies aim to achieve 1%. We're at 5% because it's so important to us. We're one of the most giving companies in Canada, if not the world. And it's because, again, of our social purpose driving us and leading us forward.
Well, first, thank you very much on behalf of Windmill Microlending. I'm on the board of directors of Windmill, so we really appreciate your contribution. I do want to say on the key priorities and initiatives, we are often advising clients as they start this journey or as they continue on this journey as to how to choose priorities and key initiatives. So how did Telus choose these, and how long did this strategy take to develop?
Oh my gosh. Well, we obviously started with our connectivity, right? Because we were a telco. And we recognized that we're more of a horizontal industry, right? We can help so many different industries with our connectivity, with our technology. So that was the first starting point, that particular priority. And then we looked at, what else could we invest in? How could we diversify as a business to invest in other industries and really make an impact? And that's when we moved into health in the early 2000s, again, because we knew we could digitize healthcare. And it's become so important, right? Look at through the pandemic, ensuring Canadians had access to healthcare, was critical to supporting our citizens. So we did a lot to provide virtual healthcare, where you could literally, see your doctor on your smartphone. We have electronic medical records. We have almost 30,000 physicians all across Canada using our digital healthcare services, as well as our connectivity. And imagine how much that's done to help people access healthcare to no matter where you are. And then as well, we've also introduced, home health monitoring. There are a lot of people who actually got COVID who stayed at home, again, reducing exposure, and they leveraged our home health monitoring service where they could stay connected to their doctor. Their doctor was able to monitor all their vital signs. So health was a very deep priority for us. And then as well, we've just recently moved into agriculture. Because we saw the opportunity to continue our environmental leadership, our caring for the environment. And as well, just like we did with healthcare, we saw this opportunity to digitize and transform agriculture. And one of the reasons is we saw that actual demand for food is going to skyrocket because of increasing populations, especially over the next 25 years. In fact, over the next 25 years, we're going to need a 70% increase in food production in order to meet demand. And I think, the only way we'll be able to do this without utilizing more land is to do it much more efficiently and effectively, and really help create smart digital precision-based agriculture to help, feed the world.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is what we do. We start with our foundation of who we are and how we built our business, and then look at different industries and areas that we can go into where, again, we leverage our core assets. We leverage what we're really good at in order to make a difference in that particular area.
Yeah, it's very much some of the things we say to people we advise, whether it was on CSR or now ESG, is to look at the core competencies and see where you can augment your business, and as well do the to also influence the outcome you want. And one of the questions that comes along, just like we look at how do you develop the strategy, but you also have to gather perspectives. You gather perspectives from your stakeholders and rights holders and your and partners and others. And how do you gather perspectives internally as well?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Well, one of our biggest key stakeholders is our employees. Mm-hmm. And so we actually run, employee engagement surveys throughout the year. And this past year, Telus actually scored 87%, which, interestingly enough, places Telus in the top 10% of employers worldwide for a company of our size and composition. And actually, that also represents a 3% increase over last year, and it's the highest engagement score we've ever achieved. And we did it in the middle of a pandemic, which is incredible. So, employees love our approach. They love our social purpose. They tell us, all the time, the reason they were attracted to Telus is because we're so much more than a telephone company. And they want to, get up in the morning and work for a company that's really making a difference. So we, obviously talk to our employees. We talk to our customers all the time. Like, it is actually incredible the number of, customer surveys we do with our customers, just how we're doing in regards to our overall operations service. We survey our customers on our brand performance. What do they think of our corporate reputation? Do they trust us? And one of the really cool things we found from a customer perspective is that we know, regardless of age or region or whatever demographic group a customer might be in, they want to do business with a company that shares their values for community and environmental well-being. And in fact, actually 80% of Canadians feel it is important that companies they do business with act in a socially responsible way. So it's become an expectation now. And I think because of our brand, how strong our brand is, who we are, how long we've been in business, it's even more important for us to take a leadership role here. But the great thing is that, we're seeing that this is also good for our business, right? We know that Canadians are 3 times more likely to consider us because of our social purpose, right? They're 2.5 times more likely to add a product or service. They're less likely to leave or churn away. And then they also recommend us to family and friends. So we know that customers like it. Obviously we survey our shareholders as well. Our investors are actually, demanding to see the work we are doing in ESG, our diversity, our inclusion, our sustainability. A lot of people look at those now and they're prerequisites for investing, which I think is incredible. I'd like to see more of that, right? Every year we release our sustainability report where we, outline our ESG strategy and priorities and our goals and whether or not we met them. Investors are loving that. So yeah, it's really important that we continue to stay on the pulse of all of our key stakeholders so that they continue to, believe in us and that we're as transparent as possible. I think it's important to note if we don't hit a target, right? If we didn't hit that goal and why, and then what we're going to do the following year in order to be able to achieve it.
Mm-hmm. And as a business, I assume this approach is also well received in other parts of the world, and not just in Canada, by customers, by investors, by employees, and all of that.
Yeah, I think actually our strategy of social capitalism has really allowed us to significantly differentiate us from our peers, so that we evolve from sort of that traditional telco into a global technology powerhouse. And we're really utilizing our expertise, our services, our connectivity to transform industries. We actually have a Telus international business that we've been in business actually for 15 years, where we've invested in different business process outsourcing companies all over the world. And now we provide today digital customer service experiences for thousands of companies all around the world in over 30 countries in 50 different languages. And it's being received incredibly well. In fact, earlier this year, Telus International launched on the Toronto Stock Exchange as the largest tech IPO in Canadian history, which is incredible. And Telus International, interestingly enough, has one of the lowest employee rates in the industry because they differentiate themselves due to their relentless focus on CSR and ESG. And we've implemented the same things we've done in Canada in all of our international businesses to, great success.
One question that comes up a lot when we talk to, whether we're talking to boards or others or executives of companies or sustainability officers, it's how should companies be balancing their responsibility for growth and shareholder value creation with commitments to ESG?
Well, I think in today's socially conscious environment, consumers, employees, shareholders, all stakeholders, really expect and believe that for-profit companies have a responsibility to improve the state of the world, right? And they want to invest in those companies and buy from those companies and work for those companies that share their stance on social issues. I think the pandemic has only served to underscore the importance of corporate leadership in this space. I think that we need a complete reset from the historic capitalism where it was doing business for the sake of shareholders only, and in many cases at the expense of others. And I think we need to shift to the new social capitalism, whereby businesses take accountability and responsibility for the local social health and well-being of the communities where they operate, and they ensure that all key stakeholders benefit, right, including customers and employees and governments and shareholders as well. I think it's ideal for a for-profit business to be focused on purpose. It's okay to be for profit. I mean, we employ thousands of people, right, who then pay income taxes and consume goods and help, make the economy go round. But having a social purpose, I don't think it doesn't come at the expense of profit. It actually helps drive them because more people want to do business with us. I think as well, having a social purpose drives innovation because you're kind of focused on new things and you're focused on social issues and how can we actually address this issue, like knowing what we're good at or using what we're good at. And it's really drove lots of innovation and creative ideas, within the business. And I would say here, last year, Telus contributed $150 million to support COVID-19 efforts, more than any other Canadian company. We gave 5% of our pre-tax profits, like I talked about. And in that same year, we also outperformed on every brand, financial, and operating metric. We led in revenue and EBITDA growth in the industry. We delivered industry-leading customer growth. We led on customer loyalty. We had the lowest churn, that's the number of customers leaving us, than any other competitor. We outperformed on almost every brand and corporate reputation measure as well. So I think clearly the strategy of social capitalism demonstrates that we're balancing our fiduciary responsibilities, maximizing returns for all stakeholders, while also, driving social change and benefiting society.
Yeah. Well, Telus is a true example of how we can do that, how we create and build sustainable business for now and in the future, and bring everybody with us and elevate everybody. Your sustainability-linked bonds was one of the first in Canada. Well, you're the first Canadian company to commit to these. I know we're running out of time. I'm being warned. So let me just move to some things, like some aspects of ESG. That's something that we're dealing with daily. They're easy to measure, such as emission reduction targets, etc. And even then, when you're talking about emission reduction, what emissions are you talking about? What is the methodology and all of that? So all of those issues come up. But others, including many social commitments, are often more challenging. How does Telus assess what is material to your ESG commitments? How do you prioritize resources? How do you measure success or set metrics across the different and varying aspects of ESG? I may end there after, depending on where we are.
Well, I think as we all know, what gets measured gets done. The great thing about ESG is our ESG performance is a significant portion of our corporate scorecard. So if we don't hit our ESG targets, we all get penalized on our compensation, from our frontline employees all the way up to the CEO. For our environmental commitments, we set very aggressive reduction targets, and they're approved by the Science-Based Targets Initiative to ensure that we meet all the obligations and required emissions reductions outlined in the Paris Agreement, so that we can keep global warming down to 1.5 degrees. And we've been doing that actually for a long time. In 2010, long before other companies, we actually set targets for reduction in energy use, reduction in GHG emissions. And because we had surpassed those goals early on, we started to set even more aggressive targets going forward. And so on the environmental front, we've set the target to become net carbon neutral and net zero waste by 2030. We're going to procure 100% of our electricity requirements from renewable sources by 2025. Remember, I talked about us investing in wind farms and solar farms. We're going to improve our energy efficiency by 50% over the next 10 years. So those are some of the energy and environmental targets we hit, and they're very material, right? It means, we have to do business in a different way. We have to get our energy from different sources so that we can contribute. And then I think one of the other successes I'm really proud of is our diversity and inclusion targets. Telus was actually one of a very small number of Canadian publicly traded companies to adopt very aggressive board targets that include visible minority and Indigenous representation. And we actually set a target earlier this year to have at least 2 board members who represent BIPOC and Indigenous groups. And we appointed them. They now sit on our board. Telus has one of the leading board compositions in Canada. We have 6 women on the board. That's 45% of the board. I wish it was more than 50, but it's getting there, right? And I think that that's incredible. The gender representation, the cultural representation is one of the leaders in Canada from a governance perspective. And I think that's incredible. I think this is this is why I love the G in ESG, because when you've got the right governance in place, it means you're always going to do the right thing. And we have set up our board to ensure we fully represent, what our communities look like.
Yeah.
I'm really, really proud of that.
Thank you, Jill. Governance is key. I want to say I don't have time to wrap up because we're actually out of time. So I want to say thank you so much for being so inspiring to all of us. And over to you, Greg.
Well, thanks much, Radha, and thanks, Jill, for sharing the breadth and depth of Telus's commitment and actions to creating a more sustainable and inclusive BC and company, but also your leadership in the economy. It's pretty clear Telus's dedication to the social purpose and evolution that you've experienced towards, as you said, social capitalism with impact is a real great example for many organizations that are on that journey. And also just the power of partnership in community and what you can do to do good, but also be good for business.